Hi, I'm Steve Alden, an architect with Nemechek Vectorworks. We've put together a presentation today featuring 3 architects who have come in to talk about the business of creativity. We'll be looking at why they got into the business, what challenges they face, and what they see as the future of the design profession. Joining us today are Dylan Chappell from Dylan Chappell Architects in Santa Barbara, California, Mike Timchek from the M Group Architects and Interior Architects in Reston, Virginia, and Ali Honarkar from Division I Architect in Washington, D.C. I got to tell you what I like about this group getting together is Ali, Dylan, Mike, and none of you guys knew each other before we all got together here. And yet, for the last several minutes, you've just been talking about projects and discussing what it's like to have your different offices in different parts of the country. And so it's just fascinating to me to watch how designers and architects can get together and immediately bond and form this relationship. So everybody's got a team that you're working with, that you're putting together. And so there's certainly an influence that that team has on creativity. You've got to have the right mix of people in the firm. That's always got to be a challenge, I would think.
Finding the right people and then keeping the right people, because there's a pretty big investment, and also I guess how your individual employees work and flow with one another. Setting all that up takes a lot of time and energy, and once you have a good system, the last thing you want to do is to see it fracture and go different directions. So.
Yeah, I know that's a big thing that you talk about a lot. Alex.
Well, we were talking earlier. You know, when we started, our studio, it was 2-3 guys from college, so we knew each other. And then, so once the work gets out there, and there's more interest for what you do, you have to grow. And bringing that first person in from the outside is huge, because there's the dynamics changes, that the chemistry changes. So that's a big commitment. But with our studio, once you're in, it doesn't really matter if you're an intern or you have 20 years of experience. We all work on every project together.
Yeah.
It just you have to be involved, and whether you're not like it or not, you're going to have responsibilities from day one. That chemistry, I would assume in a larger firm, the dynamics can change.
Right. When we moved offices about 4 years ago, we moved specifically to a more open office because we wanted to get more collaboration. We realized we hired talented individuals, but they were working on projects, managing themselves from start to finish, and without any significant collaboration, getting people talking. And so by opening up the office and opening up this environment where you walk by somebody's desk and you see something and you're excited by their design, you can give some input onto the design, inform the design a little bit, and it just makes for a better product. So we're open to that collaboration, creative element. So yeah,
we have an open office. I want to make sure no one's on YouTube.
That's another reason to have an open office.
Yeah, I like the feel of your office at the M Group, because it does have that feeling that everybody's kind of in this thing together.
Sure.
And working together, and just watching how you guys work at your firm. There's just so much kind of shouting over the partitions.
Oh, yeah.
They're not even partitions, you're just
about
low.
48 inches high is the tallest wall.
And Dylan, your office is kind of structured in similar ways, isn't it?
Yeah, we have an open office environment as well, and being a smaller firm, as Ali said, we like to have all of our guys have their hands in every aspect of the project, and I think it's really important for the creativity of your staff to know where we at, where are we going, rather than just focusing on this part of the task, but having an idea of the bigger picture, so they can collaborate and get their ideas all the way through, rather than just giving them a specific task.
Sure. And you cross-pollinate information. So our firm does everything from data centers to corporate interiors to base buildings, and so people have different areas of expertise. But by being open and being open to the idea of collaboration, people learn new skill sets, and that just going forward, it just makes a stronger design group. So that you can get people who are very good at one thing informing the younger staff, and vice versa. The younger staff comes in with different ideas about how to do something, technology-wise or other, and they're informing the older staff of, okay, maybe I can change some ideas here. So it's being open to changing your
which is nice. I think some of the younger group that comes in, they're so naive when it comes to the codes and
Sure.
all these different things, but there's great ideas that come through anyway, because you know, they're not closed in. As creative, we want to say we are, all of us, that, you know, we still have to follow all these codes and, you know, the different things we have to deal with.
Right.
And that's not in their head. So.
And we found that the struggle is oftentimes there's this shyness or this I don't understand what's going on, so I'm not going to speak. And we want to try and break that barrier down and say, no, challenge us, because we don't want to get set in our ways. You know, we want to be challenged. Why are we doing it that way? You know, okay, maybe you have an idea.
Absolutely, I think it's really important, and creativity begets creativity to some degree, and once you stifle that spirit in someone, I think it's kind of detrimental to the whole environment. So, promoting that, collaborating, working together, I think there's a lot of different aspects that, when you think about what is creativity in your firm, the environment that you're in, and working and collaborating, you know, and just bouncing ideas and energy off of people, keeping it going, and
keeping that energy up is huge to the creative process. You know, just people getting excited.
Yeah.
You know, makes you think about it longer and more closely.
Yeah, because we've all had those projects where that creativity gets crushed, and you can just, it's palpable. You can feel it in the office, and you know, I have some of my guys that say, "We just got the permit on that, and I would really never like to hear another thing about it."
Right.
Which is, you know, if you're doing enough projects, it's going to happen on some. But how can we plan ahead and avoid that in the future?
So there's always got to be a surprise or two, I would think, with staff, when you've all got staff where, because you've got this open idea about creativity and an open office plan, where you find some people really respond to that. And maybe you find a few surprises, some people that really step up that you hadn't anticipated.
Oh, certainly.
You know, that's got to be the very exciting part as someone who's in charge of a firm like you guys are, to see that kind of certain people really step up and really take things on.
Absolutely, and it's one of the things they don't teach you in school is the chemistry of personalities.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
you know, you might even have two extremely creative people, but when you put them together, they're not jiving. So it's our job to step in and kind of be a team negotiator and make sure that, you know, you can really harness each individual's personality and make them feel like they're being heard, and you know, and the project just continues to flow smoothly.
Yeah, I think, you know, to interns, you know, we always say that, you know, it's not like studio in school where you're competing. You know, you're here to contribute, so it's a little bit different. So, you know, it's not like you don't keep your good ideas to yourself. You know, we're a team, so it's all about, you know, just cooperation and working together. Whereas, you know, I think some of the firms, you know, when the interns come in, you know, I don't really believe in that. You got to pay your dues. You got to file. You got to do this. That's not what I'm looking for. So when we're bringing a student, architecture student, or anyone, as a matter of fact, you know, we want design and good ideas. If they have good ideas about how to file, I'll talk to them.
That's a good point. And you mentioned something about internal, you know, collaboration and being of similar mindsets. But what we found also, what's really successful for us is when we're asked to interview for a project, we'll send the team that's actually going to do the work, because externally with the client, there needs to be a kind of a meshing of the minds. They have to have similar mindsets. Our world is a subjective world. Everything we do is subjective. And so if the client falls in love with, you know, the person at the interview, and then we bait and switch and try and give a different designer, it's going to be heartache. So it's better to keep the same team on the project, so that, you know.
That's so true. I always say that actually to all clients, is that, you know, I mean, you know, you're going to see us for a year and a half.
Right.
On some of the residential projects especially. So the chemistry is always important. So that's a big part of it.
Then the client feels open to reach out to you with ideas, and you can gain some insight from the client. It's not just, okay, give me the project and I'll come back to you in a year and here it is. It's, you know, we want your feedback. We want to challenge you why you want it this way. And
right. Yeah. That initial, you know, conversation with the client is also important. I mean, you know, if you have a good feeling about the client and vice versa, then of course you have a certain style, and that's what you're hired based on. But the differences are because of the client. The client's input is very important, and that's why, you know, no two projects look the same in our portfolio. So it's very important to have that chemistry, and that's, I think, part of being able to come up with something very creative. It's having spent time with the client and getting to know them.
You know, we do, you know, multifamily, mixed use, hospitality,
residential, and those are all different clients. So that's one of the biggest challenges for us is that they're looking for different things. And it's also what makes it really fun at our studio because, we get to work with this, palette of, different projects, and each one of those clients has a different personality and has a different need. And to be able to be, you got to be diplomatic, but it gets really fun when you get somebody that you've designed a restaurant and then they want you to do their house.
And with us, on the corporate side of things, doing corporate interiors and base buildings, there it's not the individual who's going to be living in the space. It's hundreds of employees. And so how do you engage them? There's a corporate culture, and then there's the individuals. How do they want to perceive themselves? And it's a big deal for recruitment and retainage, trying to hire the best and brightest. So they have to put out, it may not be that my contact with the client's personal style, but sometimes they have to set that aside and think bigger term. We have a corporate culture we're trying to generate here. And so it's a balance in trying to figure out exactly what they want and what they really need. Sometimes they don't know, and you have to figure it out for them. But
absolutely, I think that's one thing that maybe draws us into the profession of what we do is coming up with a creative solution and a unique solution. We're not coming into work doing the same thing every day. It's always a new set of problems, a new criteria, different boards or groups that you're servicing, and it's one of the aspects that is so attractive to me is solving these solutions, and they're new solutions, time and time again.
Yeah, and then as you grow as a designer and as you've listened to your staff, you get the same problem and you approach it a different way. And so, because, we did okay on the last one, but we got to change this detail because something wasn't quite working. So you got to learn from past mistakes, and it goes back to you're never really done designing a space. Even after I've handed over the drawings and they've taken them away from me and they're gone, I'm still thinking about, okay, what could I have done differently? I mean, I'm still thinking about college projects. Like, what could I have done differently? And so you're never done, and you're learning from past mistakes, and you're listening to other people's opinion and how they would have changed it. So
that's got to be a major characteristic of everybody here, is this desire at some point in your life where you realized, I like to solve problems. I don't mind problems. I don't mind challenges. I want to do that as a vocation or a career. I want to, what can I do that will allow me to do what I love to do, which is solving problems? And architecture is all about problems. Isn't it?
It's about coming up with solutions. And the exciting thing about it is there's always more than one solution.
Right.
And I think that's kind of what leads into being creative. You can skin in so many different ways, and then taking that one path is and I think that's where you have the team. And you collaborate and you find what's the best way to go about this. But it's every project. I know I always say the same thing. There's always something to be learned, but every project is always different. And you correct one mistake, there's always something else that comes up.
True.
There's always speed bump somewhere that you never anticipated. And of course, they're always other people's fault.
Right. It was never. They
didn't understand.
Right. If they were on board, there would be no issues. But I live for that challenge. And the only way you can be good at what you do, you have to have ownership. And I still drive around and check on houses that I've did, especially residential, and make sure the mailbox still where I said it was going to be. If not, of course, I'll leave a note. But you have to care. And the funny thing is that I do have clients, speaking of just a mailbox, that when they do want to change it, they'll call me and say, "Hey, what do you think we should do?" And I'll go there and look at it. I mean,
it's such a small detail, but you care.
Yeah,
it shows that you care about
when
the
they
design.
see how much time you put into it, it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And I don't mind it, and I'll go and say, we'll take a look at it. We'll select the mailbox if we have to, or design it and put it in the right place.
Sure.
Do any of you guys ever get into talking about designing mailboxes? Do you ever get into designing furniture? Or I know with interiors, the heavy interiors aspect that you guys have, you're probably doing a lot of stuff.
We design
that's custom.
furniture and a lot of millwork details and built-in furniture and freestanding furniture, light fixtures. Just getting involved with designing all different aspects. At a certain point, you have to let go of that and just find a light fixture that another manufacturer is making, but make that work with your design. But which is still a creative process, choosing from a palette of things to work with. But it's
a lot of architects are drawn.
We do that.
To
Yeah,
that.
we have a lot of furniture, and so when we get into more of when we've done offices or hospitality, we've done a lot of furniture. From the bar stools to lighting, You know, obviously in residential, we do a lot of the built-ins as well. But yeah, we've done, you know, furniture that fits what we've designed. There are times where we just have to do it. And you can't really rely on designing the space and just, for example, if it's a restaurant, and then think that the owner is going to come in and put the furniture that fits best in there.
I think it's really important for the success of the space as well. Oftentimes we'll come into projects and look at a room and go, well, how is this room going to work?
Right.
You know, how are you actually going to live in it?
Yeah.
And if you didn't consider the furniture layout,
Right.
maybe not necessarily so much on our end as actually designing it, but at least incorporating it into the process early on, so it not only looks good, but design is about how does the space function as well, you know?
If it looks pretty and your client hates it, it's not necessarily
That's
successful.
not, yeah.
So
It's a process, you know, and good clients, good projects, they take time, and there's some ups and downs and different aspects of the project that have to come together, but it's really, you can't just look at the end goal in mind. It's that whole process all the way through, from design to construction, that's important to consider.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got this client that comes in, it's the first time you've met them, and you're having that kind of introduction discussion with them about what they want for their project. How do you react if you get the sense that they maybe don't understand design or the process of design or even the value of design? Why are they using an architect?
Whenever we have a new client, I ask them to have a program, whatever it is, whatever the project is. And I ask them to bring images of what they want. What is it that they want? You know, those are not images for us to look at, I mean, to copy, but I want to get a sense that we're speaking the same language. And I think as designers, you know, more pictures the better. I think that's where our interview starts, and it helps us to understand if we're talking terms modern, contemporary, traditional. We want to know what that means to the person. That's the starting point, and a program. You know, you don't want a client that says do whatever you want to do. You know, it all sounds great, but those are the
and they're mythical. I've never met one.
They might say it, but they don't mean it, huh?
or that there's no budget.
Right. That's also a mythical
That's right.
creature.
So you know, the more information I have, the more we can help them and start. You know, right away and get a sense of, you know, where do we go? What's the next meeting about?
Yeah, I like that storyboard idea, because a lot of times you'll do that as like a first step after you have that meeting, is say, well, here's what I think you're saying to me.
Well, we have a two-phase kind of visioning, we call it visioning session, and that's bring us your images. What do you like? But our Rolodeck of images is much larger than yours. So we're also going to show you, you know, some images that span different styles and different areas of your project, be it the kitchen, be it the office space, whatever. And we're going to show you a lot of our past projects, a lot of interesting design elements. You react to that, and then we'll also react to what you've brought us. But it can be anything down to details, like, you know, we really like this light fixture. What can you do? And we can, you like that one? We have hundreds of others that we've used on past projects. What do you think of these?
Right.
That's part of educating the client.
Yeah,
about
but also
the
being able to
process.
present those ideas. I mean, you know, that again, as you were saying before, be able to do that in-house, be able to present
Articulate
it,
your
and
ideas.
be able to send it back to them right away is you know, again, the key to business.
So those new clients can begin to understand what the process of design is by the way you engage them in these kinds of, you say read Fountainhead, but also you also pull out things from
I've
magazines.
never even read it myself.
Yeah, you know, pull things out of magazines that you like, because it helps you understand what's in their head. But they then, I think, reciprocally, they are beginning to understand what the process of design is about. So they're becoming more informed in the process.
Absolutely, and I think our most successful projects start with clients that understand the value of good design. And then there's a level of trust in there, you know, and just like we might have to trust our employees for them to reach their full potential, clients that trust us, I feel it gives us freedom to be even more creative, but in the sense that it's specific to their needs. We always have to check in and include them in the process.
You got to keep them in the communication, you know, because if they fall out of the communication, you'll lead to surprises. We've talked about that.
Yeah.
They're never good. So.
And we've all had projects where you're dealing with a client that doesn't understand why do I need an architect, or I don't understand the value of the design, I just need a permit, you know, and it's really hard to go through that process, because typically at the end of the project, it's not your project. You help facilitate it, but you're kind of being strong-armed, and then the sad part is we can see it coming from the beginning. You know it's not going to be as good as it could have been, and it doesn't have to spend more money or anything, but just the potential of the project kind of gets handcuffed from the very beginning, which if you are vested and committed, it's hard to swallow that.
You have to find some small element. Oftentimes what we try to do is just find some small element in the design. If it's a stubborn client and it's do it my way, done, we're done talking, or they don't even want, you know, high quality design, they just want a permit. You still have to find something in there that you can claim as your own, or you find a creative way to solve a solution that you can take going forward to another project, even if it's how to deal with that type of client. So
I think two of the main factors that play a major role in being creative is, one, your experiences, and the second, which we've touched on a lot, is your relationships. And I think it's really important, if you want to stay creative, to go out there, see creative stuff done by other people, interact. You have to continually be stimulated, whether it's through travel or reading, going to see lectures, or just surrounding yourself in creative environments, I think is a really big factor in continuing to be creative.
I had said how important it is to challenge the client and make sure you're asking, why are you doing it? But the same question applies to yourself. Challenge yourself. Why am I doing this? And trying to keep growing and understanding, why am I designing it this way? You know, why do I want to do that? And I think creativity is really, it's working within the parameters that are before you, regardless of what they are: budget, schedule, you know, a design detail. It's finding the solution within a set parameter. You know, you have to be able to solve this, and to come up with an answer, inherently you are being creative. And the creativity isn't just with design; it's also in how to run the business and how to make sure you're profitable.
It's actually the
it's
hardest
not a
part.
design challenge. Yeah, it's a financial challenge, and how can we get the job first, make it profitable, still be happy with the product we're putting out, but be profitable. And so there's creativity in that, you know, and software and hardware sometimes plays a role in that. And, you know, I can get these drawings out faster if I'm doing this, or I can get a quicker decision if I just generate a rendering or something like that. And if that can immediately eliminate 4 meetings because I've handled it with one, you know, quickly generated image, then I've been creative financially.
That's
and
good
I've
for
made
business.
profit. Yeah, it's good for business.
You know, I think one of the reasons that I wanted to have my own studio was so that I could have, you know, freedom to express, you know, what I wanted to do, especially with other people's money.
Well, that's a good point.
I think there's a tendency for people who are not in the creative field to think that the best thing that can happen for creativity is have unlimited everything, unlimited budget, unlimited ideas, unlimited. But creativity really is about recognizing the limitations and then making something out of that.
I get a kick out of just, you know, being able to, we never have anywhere near the budget of some of the other designers that do what we do. And, you know, and when I see these, you know, projects that are certain $1 million, you know, and I look at, we did those for in a fraction, and we're able to do that. I think that's kind of when it shows you can be creative. I think it's obviously you can throw a lot of money at something and be able to do it, but to be able to do the same thing, but through design, and yeah, I think that's a whole process there.
And I don't know if this is true for you, but I'd be willing to bet it is. But most of the designers in our company, you know, they're designers by day, but then they also have creative interests. You know, outside of the office, we have a lot of photographers and a lot of artists, people who paint, watercolor, people who, you know, have other creative, you know, mill workers. You know, I work.
What do you do?
Me personally, I like photography and then I like woodworking, and so, you know, it's just creative outlets, and so it's still in the design world. It's just not architecture, but it doesn't mean I'm not challenging myself to come up with new and inventive ways to do something.
What about you, Ali? What do you do for?
I'm thinking.
I'm at the office 90 hours a day.
I know it's similar. I mean, I like we were speaking. You know, I grew up. My family's been in the design, build, construction, for a long time. So I'm originally from Iran, so my family has done work there. Long line of masons for hundreds of years. So, and it's something I grew up doing construction, working for my dad, and so that I do a lot of mill work. I actually have a mill workshop. Do a lot of furniture, and it happens. My wife is a photographer, so I'm not touching a camera.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I can see that in the details of your buildings too. This emphasis on, we'll say, millwork or detail, or the way things come together. You probably have very similar instincts, and of course you do, Dylan, too, because of your dad and contracting. How to put things together intelligently, and
it's
maybe
a great language to know, especially when you deal with contractors on site.
Absolutely.
So that helps a lot.
Yeah.
Understanding their priorities and what are their problems and how are they going to approach stuff, and be able to communicate that. I think it's a value to the client and also just the overall project. When we kind of touch base back on what's the value of good design, and it might cost a little more up front, but like you touched on, if you're able to come up with a great design, being creative with material selection and layout, in the end, having a really awesome space that has a great design, it doesn't cost any more, and it might even cost less than a bad.
No, I agree. I always say, good design is good design. It doesn't matter if it's you make it out of granite or if it's cardboard. It's a quality of the design, spatial qualities and so forth. So I've done that in my own house. When I may not have the right budget, it's designed where we can come in later. I can change out things and upgrade. And I'm a believer of not designing every single detail, especially on residential. I think those spaces you need to kind of grow into them. I always get a kick out of looking at these projects that are in some sort of a condo in New York, where you can just see it's all staged. I think the project, and that's how I feel about our residential projects, is that it needs to look real. We're not going to stage it with furniture they're not going to live in. I want it to look real, and it makes a big difference. And you got to have room to any real living situation. It takes years for you to figure out what kind of couch do I want. You have the basic stuff, but do I need more built-ins? You grow in there, you have kids. There's different needs. Yep. And I think that, especially in residential, if you build that, corporate is a little bit different. You already know what's necessary, but
right.
I like us to be able to, and that's how we kind of stay in touch with the client, and straight up, we'll tell them, we see things where it may be necessary, but I like you guys to kind of grow in, use the house, and then we can kind of complete that.
I think it's an important aspect of good design. It's not, most people think design is how it looks, but it's even more important, how's it going to function for you?
Right. Yeah, I mean, you have to put your ego aside and realize that, this project's not about 100% you. You got to make sure that the client gets what they want first. So I think that's important.
So the business of creativity seems to change depending on market conditions. There's good cycles, there's bad cycles. What's your feelings, guys, about what's going on in the industry right now, today, and moving forward for the next several years?
It's positive right now, much better than it was a few years ago. And in general, the idea of design is becoming more commonplace in the American vernacular and in just the vernacular in general. Social media, people sharing with places they've been, look at this cool thing I've seen, or maybe it's shows on TV where people are emphasizing design. And so a lot of our clients now are no longer looking for vanilla spaces. They're like, hey, I've seen this thing. And so in general, the public is getting informed in design, and and the market is doing much better. So those two things coming together, it's a good time to be a designer.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think the clients that are coming to us, I feel they're more sophisticated now. They are more informed on design and what they want, and we also have these incredible tools now to create that more efficiently. And I think that where we're going in the next 5 years and the next 10 years is going to be really interesting. On my Christmas wish list is, you know, getting a 3D printer and, you know, where are things going? Because it's been, houses have been, you know, if you moved in 1950 or you moved in 2000, the house could be very similar right now, which maybe there's certain good things that work, but there's also, to me, when I see that too, I go, you know, we're living differently now, and we're going to be living differently in the future as well. So how can we capture that energy? And, you know, just building on a positive market, people, you know, having money to spend and buy homes and remodel it. I think we're heading into a good season here.
You hit on a good point with talking about technology a little bit there, I think, and going into the future. The younger generation is really saturated with tech and the design elements, and you have to look no further than how well considered an iPhone or some other phone is. That's all design, and you don't understand it, but when you feel it, it's right. And so the same works with the built environment, is that when you enter a space and it's done with care and it's carefully, you know, considered, it feels right.
You just
and
get
so
it.
It's just inherent, it's in the back of your mind, this feels good. So, and I think, you know, technology is helping us with that. As designers, is helping us with that.
I think like you said, the younger generation is so aware. I mean, you know, we you know, some of the clients that come in now, they're so much more informed about, you know, materials, you know, finishes, you know, just even the brands, you know, which helps. You know, instead of having to come and explain everything, you know, they're fully aware, and a lot of times they drop the brand names and what they want, whether it's a kitchen or a light fixture, and again, that's all done through, you know. And one of the great things with technology is that it's also allowing people to express themselves, these devices and this software. You know, now you have a chance to, and like, just look at any like Facebook or something like that. I get to represent myself in some way, so it's you know, you're considering that, and so it's a person. These design decisions are personal, and so they're taking that into the future when they talk to an architect or a designer. You know, they understand the value.
We're gonna friend you right after this.
Yeah.
Well, this is great. You guys, really, this has been so enjoyable to have everybody talking. And as I said earlier on, meeting for the first time, but as three designers who share so much in common in what you're experiencing in your day-to-day operation. I'm convinced you guys are going to keep in touch.
Absolutely.
There's nothing.
Carry on the conversation.
Yeah, there's nothing that unifies a group of people as a common struggle.
It is a struggle, but the struggle is more positive than negative, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
it's
always good.
It's always important. It's a climb, but it's an enjoyable climb. Huh?
It is.